and welcome to StoryForge, an offshoot of the Untold Stories project. This project focuses on those role-playing systems that may not get a whole lot of view in the streaming community. StoryForge, specifically, is meant to focus on character creation within these systems. My name is Andy, and I will be your Forge Master for this series, so let's strike while the iron is hot. Today, we're going to look at the Hollow Earth Expedition role-playing system made by the fine folks over at Exile Studios. Hollow Earth Expedition is a pulp-style system that is meant to create characters from, like, say, the 1910s through the 1940s, similar to The Shadow, similar to Indiana Jones, similar to The Rocketeer, those type of pulp characters that are slightly larger than life. In Hollow Earth Expedition, you're as likely to run across a character, say, a mad scientist from Victorian England trying to get a dirigible to the moon, as you are to come across a lost scion of the city of Atlantis making his way across the surface world, drawn inexplicably towards danger and mystery wherever he or she may go. We're going to look at how to create a character within this system today. Focus on a few things. There's a couple of different steps that need to be taken when you create a Hollow Earth Expedition character. The first is you're going to pick an archetype from the core book or any of the extra books that exist for this system. And an archetype is your concept and stereotype for you to build upon. It's not meant to be a grab bag that says, oh, you're taking this, you get all of these things with it. No, you're going to play, say, an academic or an engineer or a soldier. That's your archetype. And from there, you'll define what type of academic you are, what type of engineer you are, what type of soldier you are. But that's just, you want to have the archetype down so you kind of know how you're going to play that character. The next thing that you're going to look at creating or picking is your motivation. It's the character's drive to do what they do. So what is it that drives you? Is it duty? Is it faith? Is it greed? Is it fame? These are all motivations within the core book that you can choose along with others. You could also talk with your GM if you think that there's not one in the book that fits what your concept is, and then you can decide on that as well. The big things with your motivation is that playing to your motivation will get you style points, and style points are used to edit a scene or give you bonuses to dice rolls. The next up is you're going to have 15 points to spend on your primary attributes. Your primary attributes are divided into body, dexterity, and strength for physical, and charisma, intelligence, and wisdom for your mental statistics. With those, you've got 15 points to spend among 6 stats. You could have 3 in all. You could have a 3 in 5 out of those 6, and a 0 in something else, where you can do a little bit of mix and manage as you choose. Depends on what your character concept is for this. The next step would be to create your derived attributes. Now, these are statistics that don't have any points that you're putting into them, but you gain points from them from your primaries. These secondary attributes are move, so how fast do you move, your perception, your initiative, your defense, your stun, and your health. We'll get into those a little bit later when I show you how to actually create a character, but we're just going to talk through them now. Skills are the primary way in which you do what it is you do. For an academic, you would want to choose, am I going to be very good at a specific discipline? Am I going to be very good at history? Am I going to be very good with languages? if I can use firearms, which firearms am I good with? A pistol, a rifle, a shotgun, a heavy machine gun, that kind of thing. So your skills are going to be the main meat of your character. It's going to say how well you do something. It's going to give you your number of dice that you're going to be rolling, looking for successes. The ubiquity system that Hollow Earth is built upon is success-based. You're going to roll any number of any sides of dice, so long as you pick if you want an even number as your success or an odd number as your success. So you've got 15 points to put into skills, and like I mentioned before, you can specialize in some of those skills as well. Specifically, things like science, you have to pick a discipline. Academics, you would have to pick a discipline that kind of gives you a more focused area. So science, chemistry, that kind of focus. Those are skill specializations. A skill specialization costs you half of a skill point, so you can take two of them right off the bat without overall impacting your pool of points to spend in skills. The next step down is to gain a talent or a resource. Talents are very similar to feats if you're familiar with role-playing systems like Pathfinder or D&D. There are ways to better your character in certain manners. You could gain a bonus to your primary statistics through this. You could gain some interesting feature that's based on your archetype, or maybe your motivation as well. Like for instance, a soldier could take an instant reload so that they would be always able to fire their gun in case they needed to get themselves out of a sticky situation. So you can choose either a talent, which I just described, or a resource. Resource is something not quite intangible, because it can be an artifact of power or a gadget of some type. Going back to the very beginning of my scroll, you've got your Victorian England scientist who has that moon-reaching dirigible. That could be a resource. Or Indiana Jones, his whip could be a resource, but more than likely it's actually his contacts within the historical archaeological community that would be a resource for someone like Indiana Jones. The Rocketeer, his jetpack would definitely be a resource. You get one of those to start at character creation with, unless your GM has decided that there is something that exists within the story he or she is trying to tell that garners you something extra. And the last step of character creation is to choose a flaw. And a flaw can be something physical, it can be something mental. It's something that the game master can use against you for you to gain a style point and for him to alter a scene with. For example, if your character is overly impetuous and impulsive and wants to get to things very quickly, the GM could throw you a style point if the group is deliberating on how to best get into a castle or a tomb or something along those lines, and have you just charge ahead. So with that kind of brief background on character creation under our belts, I think we're going to actually jump into showing you how to create a character. I have created for a con game, I've created a setting called the Rocketeer Corps. So I've created a whole bunch of men and women in the U.S. service during World War II who were given jetpacks and told to undertake missions that were maybe a little bit more out there that you would have actually seen from our history. That were a little bit more pulp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you how to build a character, brand new recruit to that Rocketeer Corps. All right, so what you've got, what you can see that I have up here is now I have my Hollow Earth Expedition character sheet already set up and ready to go for us to go ahead and build our character. So as I mentioned before, we're going to start with an archetype. Since I'm going to be making a Rocketeer, and it is a U.S. serviceman or woman from the era of the World War II, from the era during which World War II took place, we are going to go ahead and create a soldier archetype. And we're going to give them the motivation of duty, because what soldier doesn't want to do their duty, to fight for their country, to fight for what they believe in? Our primary attributes are going to determine how good we are at specific things, especially in our secondary attributes, and they will give us a bonus on our skill rolls later on. So we're going to go ahead and work through these first. For this soldier, we're going to give them a body of 3, a dexterity of 3, a strength of 2, a charisma of 2, an intelligence of 2, and a willpower of 3. So we're imagining here a new recruit to the Rocketeer Corps who's got some good build to his body, who's very good with his hands, probably a very good pilot, as he would have to be to control that jetpack, and one whose head is on rather straight and has some force of will behind them. So with those built, we go down to our secondary attributes. Remember, I said our secondary attributes are all derived from our primary attributes. So size, always for a normal human, which this character is 0. There are ways to play more alien creatures or more animalistic creatures within the Hollow Earth as well. So the size may go up depending on what race you choose to play as there. Move is going to be dictated by our strength and dexterity. So we're going to add our strength and our dexterity together to give us our move, which is going to be 5. Our perception is going to be done by our intelligence and willpower. So again, we have 2 and a 3, so we end up with a 5. Initiative is going to be our dexterity on our intellect. Again, 3 and 2 gives us a 5. Our defense is going to be our body and our dexterity. So that gives us a 6. And our stun is just our body rating. So that's going to be 3. Health is also a secondary attribute. It's derived and it's based on your body and your willpower, which gives us a 6. Now, all of these numbers aren't just numbers. They are also the number of dice that you would roll when asked to make an initiative check, to make a defense check, to make a stun check, to make a perception check. The only one that's not a roll is health. Health is how much damage you can take and will go down if you take hits. For any of the primary attribute stats, if you're ever asked to make a skill roll that you do not have, you can always attempt to roll based on the primary attribute. You would multiply that primary attribute by 2 and subtract 2 from the overall. So if I was asked to make a skill check that I did not have but was based on strength, I would multiply strength by 2 and I would subtract 2 rolls from that, effectively leaving me with a 2 from the set. Skills are going to be the meat and potato of what our character does and how the character does it. So for our Rocketeer character, we want to kind of we want to get into some of the background that they might have had, thinking about this character. Did he grow up on a farm? Did he grow up in the city? Did he grow up in a suburb? That kind of thing, to kind of help round out some of the skills. So giving a little bit of thought to this character, I thought animal handling would be an interesting skill for this character to have. It could definitely come from the country, have been born on a farm and has grown up around various animals, dogs, cows, chickens, that kind of stuff, and has some repertoire with them So if he were to run into them in the wild or other creatures in the wild, he could communicate his will to those characters, to those creatures, and maybe garner some insight from them. So the base, that is your skill rating. Animal handling is a charisma-based skill, so we end up with a 2. We're not going to make this super high because we only have 15 points to spend, so we're going to go ahead and give it 1 level in animal handling. That gives us a rating of 3. Rating is the total number of total number of dice that we're going to roll if asked to roll an animal handling check. The average here becomes 1 plus. The average is always half of what your rating is, rounded down. But if you end up with an odd number, you always end up with the plus. You can take the average and basically say, I automatically will get 1 success in this case, and then I would roll a die to see if I do get that second success or if I don't get that second success. If you have an even number in your averages, you're going to end up with just whatever that is if you choose to take the average on any kind of skill roll. Next up, we're going to take Brawl. This Rocketeer recruit has learned over time how to throw a punch the right way. As he's a soldier, his base is 2 because that's his strength. We gave him a little bit of a bonus here in his levels, which we gave him 2. His rating becomes a 4, so he would roll 4 dice. He has an average of 2, so you would automatically, if you chose just to take the average, automatically get 2 successes. And we just continue down the way from there. Demolitions. We would know how to handle demolitions. Intelligence roll. We know we get 2 points. We have 4. We have an average of 2, etc., etc. Firearms. We want him to be well trained in the art of firearms. It's dexterity based. He gets 3 ranks. We're going to give him 4 levels in that skill for a total of 7. An average of 3 plus, so always 3 successes, and then a chance for 1 better. Firearms is where we would take our first specialized skill, so we know which type of firearm our recruit is awesome with. In this case, we're going to choose rifles. We're going to get 1 extra rank in that, so anytime we are using a rifle, we get to roll 8 dice or take 4 successes right off the bat. So firearms usually come, the specialty skill normally comes directly off of the skill that it's part of, and adds 1 extra level, but it's only for that specific type of check. If I was to make a pistols check with fire, I would just use my normal firearms and not the rifle bonus because it's not the specialized skill. Next up, linguistics. He got a little bit of teaching during his basic training or maybe during his schooling, so he can speak the languages of the world a little bit better. We'll give him 2 ranks in that, so he can woo the French women once he rescues them, or woo the French men after he rescues them. We don't know what this character is yet. Piloting, another good one for a Rocketeer to have. Again, dexterity based, has a high point in that. We're going to give him 4 points as a base, gives him 7 for piloting anything that's not a jetpack, which leads me to his specialization, which would be jetpack. Get 1 extra point in there. So anytime he's flying in his jetpack, he is rolling 8 dice if he'd like to, or taking an average of 4. From there, we're going to look, we've got talents, we've got resources, and we've got our flaws. We are going to go ahead and choose a talent for this character. We're going to choose the long shot talent so that this character can make shots with his rifle at a farther distance than normal without taking penalties to his dice pool. A flaw for this recruit into the Rocketeer Corps could be overconfident. He knows he's good with his rifle, and tries to prove it at all times, but sometimes it might get him into trouble. And since this is a Rocketeer game, one would be amiss to not assign a resource to the character. In this case, that resource would be a jetpack issued to them by the U.S. Army Corps, Air Corps, so that they could conduct their missions. And that's it. This is how we went through the Hollow Earth expedition, and we built a character for the Rocketeer Corps setting. If you have any thoughts as to characters that you could make with this system, you can do that. Just remember that Hollow Earth is built primarily to emulate those pulp stories of the 1930s, 1940s. You can also go back to maybe the late 1800s and try to do that. But if you can think of a character, you can more than likely build it within the Hollow Earth expedition. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button and the bell to get notified when we put up new videos, and leave us a comment below. Thank you for watching.